There are moments in life when everything seems to slow down, as if time itself pauses for an instant, so that heaven might lean down to touch the earth and reveal a glimpse of eternity. And yet, the hearts of the disciples were still in conflict. They believed, but did not fully understand. They followed, but were still trying to grasp who exactly this master truly was. Then, on an ordinary day, Jesus invites them into something extraordinary. He calls Peter, James, and John, and takes them up a high mountain. "If you wish, I will put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." It was the presence of God, the glory of the Father, the heavenly affirmation of who Jesus truly was. He was not just the teacher, the prophet, the miracle worker. He was the Son, the beloved, the one to whom all should listen. Perhaps Peter wanted to prolong that glory. He wanted to make that moment permanent. But even as he was still speaking, a bright cloud covered them, and from the cloud came a voice. He didn't take all the disciples, he took 3, the closest ones, because soon after, Jesus began to speak of his death. That there are heights where vision changes, where the heart burns, where faith is renewed. Maybe you're going through a hard time, where everything seems dark and confusing, but God is still calling you upward, to look beyond, to see Jesus as he truly is. Glorious, victorious, radiant. May we never forget what was revealed on that mountain. Jesus is the beloved Son, and that is enough. That sustains, that transforms. Of the cross, of rejection, it shows us that glory and pain walk hand in hand in the kingdom. That before resurrection comes, the cross. Before exaltation comes, sacrifice. But those who have seen the glory can walk through the valley. He wants to be the one you listen to, the one you follow, the one you love, the one you behold. Because the Christian life is not just about knowing, it's about seeing. Not just about believing, but about encountering. Not just about walking, but climbing. Climbing with him, climbing to see him, climbing to understand that even when the glory seems to fade, he remains. Those who have heard the voice of the Father 1T give up in Gethsemane's silence. That doesn't mean the others weren't loved, but that some revelations require more closeness, more surrender, more depth. God reveals more to those who are willing to climb with him, to leave the ordinary behind and seek the sacred on higher ground. The problems may not vanish, but they become smaller before the greatness of his presence. Pain may not disappear, but it is endured with hope. Doubt does not rule us, because we've heard the voice that says, "This is my Son, listen to him." A voice unlike any other, a voice not of this earth. It was the voice of the Father himself, saying, about understanding that Jesus is not just a good man, not just a spiritual leader. He is the Son of God, the fulfillment of the law and the prophets, the very center of the Father's will. "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." Listen to him, alone, in silence. Step by step, they climbed. The fatigue may have been great, but there was something in that invitation that could not be refused. And when they looked up, everything had returned to normal. The light had faded, the cloud was gone, Moses and Elijah had disappeared. Only Jesus remained, but now, they did not see him the same way. He looked the same, but they were different. Because once you see glory, once you touch the eternal, nothing remains the same. It was as if their souls already knew that something extraordinary was about to happen. The disciples did not fully understand, but they obeyed. Some spiritual experiences are so sacred, so deep, they must be kept in the heart until the right time reveals their purpose. It was in one of those moments that 3 disciples, Peter, James, and John, witnessed something that no human words could fully describe. A sacred moment, mysterious and profound. An instant when the divine touched what is visible and the glory of God shone before human eyes. But not as they saw him every day. He was the Son of Man, yes, but now revealed as the glorified Son of God. It was as if the veil between heaven and earth had been temporarily lifted, and the reality of the kingdom revealed. Jesus had already performed many signs. He had healed the sick, given sight to the blind, multiplied bread, calmed storms. At the top of that mountain, far from the noise of the world, Jesus stops. And there, in the stillness of creation, something supernatural takes place. He is transfigured. His eyes remain the same. His face is still familiar, but now it shines like the sun. A brilliance that does not come from outside, but from within. A pure, holy, majestic light. 2 men who had been gone for centuries. Now they're speaking with Jesus, Moses, the symbol of the law, Elijah, the prophet Par, excellence. Both represented everything God had spoken throughout Israel's history. The law and the prophets were there, honoring and communing with Christ, as if saying, everything we declared, everything we lived for, pointed to him. His clothes become white as light, dazzling in a way that no launderer on earth could achieve. It was as if the glory that had always been within him was now pouring out, and the disciples, astonished, overwhelmed, filled with fear and wonder. It was Jesus. But what happened next made everything even more astonishing. Beside Jesus appeared the figures, Moses and Elijah. Peter, ever impulsive, always full of good intentions, yet often not fully understanding the moment, quickly spoke, "Lord, it is good for us to be here. Silence. The disciples fell face down, terrified. This was not just a supernatural experience. Then Jesus came near, touched them gently, and said, "Get up. Do not be afraid." As they came down the mountain, Jesus told them not to tell anyone what they had seen until the Son of Man had risen from the dead. It's not just about a miraculous vision, not just about light and glory. It's about identity, about revelation. It's also about intimacy. And there's more. The Transfiguration also points to suffering. And maybe that's what God wants to say to you and me today. That there are times when He calls us to ascend. And when we see Him that way, everything changes. Jesus wants to be more than someone you admire. And when everything around us feels ordinary, dim, lifeless. As they descended the mountain, their hearts still burning from all they had seen and heard, the disciples remained silent. It was as if their souls needed time to process the experience. How could the same Jesus who had shone with the glory of heaven be handed over into the hands of men? The brilliance of the Transfiguration wasn't a temporary pause from reality, but a glimpse into God's eternal purpose, that the Savior, glorious by nature, would give Himself out of love, that the one who radiated light would take upon Himself the darkness of humanity's sin. A reminder that Jesus is greater than the contrary winds, greater than doubt, greater than death. But remember, before the cross, there was the mountain. Before death, there was glory. Before the tears, there was light. And there is more to come. It's easy to lose our way in the struggles of life. It's easy to forget who Jesus is. When everything around us screams despair, they see Jesus only as a figure of history, a prophet among many, a teacher among others. But when the heart opens and faith awakens, something shifts. And those who see the transfigured Jesus will never see Him the same way again. It was so we would know that Jesus is who He said He is. It no longer matters what circumstances shout. We've heard heaven, and those who hear heaven can face any hell, so that our faith would be grounded not just in words, but in revelation. The same Jesus who healed, taught, touched hearts. A fire that came from that light, a certainty that came from that voice, and that flame kept them firm until the end. That the Christ who climbed the mountain, who went down to the cross and rose again, will return, and then there will be no more pain, no more sorrow, no more darkness, because the Lamb will be our light, and we will see Him face to face. Still calls you to listen. The door is open, the light still shines, heaven is still speaking. All you have to say is, "Lord, I want to see. Open my eyes. Take me with you. Show me who you are." You will find strength where there was only weariness. You will find direction where there was confusion, because He is enough. Because nothing, absolutely nothing, compares to the glory of the Son of God. But it's up high that we see what we can't see on the plain. You know what it is to have your heart set ablaze by something greater than yourself. You know what it is to hear a voice from heaven that changes everything within you? The Transfiguration also points us to what is yet to come, with our ears tuned to His voice, with our feet steady, even in the storm, because we know who He is, because one day we saw His glory, because even now He still reveals Himself to those who seek Him. That moment on the mountain was a foretaste of what awaits us, a reminder that the story doesn't end here, that there is a day appointed, when every tear will be wiped away, every knee will bow, and we will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds with power and great glory. It's up there that the eyes of the Spirit open, and it's there, in the silence, that the Father's voice still speaks. "This is my Son," is also the Jesus who shines with heaven's glory. He is the Lamb who takes away the sin of the world, but He is also the Lion of the tribe of Judah. He is the man of sorrows, but also the exalted King. But that's why the Father spoke from the cloud. Listen to Him. Every time we bow our knees, every time we worship in spirit and in truth, every time we open the Scriptures with an open heart, we all start low, in the valley, in doubt. But Jesus calls us upward, to walk with Him, to leave behind distractions, crowds, and seek more. The glory still reveals itself, sometimes not on a mountaintop, but in the quiet of a bedroom, in the honest tears of one who seeks His presence, in the simple faith of one who says, "Jesus, I believe." Because on good days and bad, what sustains us is the voice of the Son. How could the beloved Son, before whom the Father had spoken, be rejected, humiliated, wounded? Because for Him, the cross wasn't a tragic detour. It was the bridge between heaven and earth. It was the means through which eternal love would be most deeply revealed. As though each step down into the valley was a gentle reminder that, no matter how glorious the mountain had been, Jesus' mission would lead them to far different places. Later he would write in his letter that he himself had been an eyewitness to Jesus' majesty when he heard Him receive honor and glory from God the Father on the sacred mountain. He wrote, "We ourselves heard this voice that came from heaven when we were with Him." He never forgot, and that memory became fuel in times of persecution. In days of pain, when the whips came, when the prisons closed in, Peter remembered, "I saw His glory. I heard the voice of the Father, and I know in whom I have believed." Jesus was speaking of His death, of rejection, of suffering, and this was difficult to grasp. But it was precisely here that the mystery of redemption rested. The disciples still couldn't fully understand, but Jesus walked resolutely. In Peter's memory, that scene would never fade. The Transfiguration became, for the disciples, a marker. Perhaps today you find yourself in a valley. Perhaps you are carrying a cross, and all you see is pain, confusion, anguish. The Transfiguration wasn't just for Peter, James, and John. It was for me. It was for you. And that glory still shines. Even if our eyes cannot see it as the disciples did, it is there. But it's also true that many today live without seeing that glory. That's why life with God is a growing journey. No one starts at the top. No one is born on the Mount of Transfiguration. Many want to see the glory, but few want to climb the mountain. Climbing is tiring. It requires surrender. It takes time. Sometimes it's lonely. And when we hear that voice, something changes forever. Because it no longer matters what the world says. It no longer matters what fear says. The disciples would face hard times. They would be persecuted, rejected, scattered, but within them burned a fire. You may feel weak today, but if Jesus is revealed to you as he truly is glorious, holy, powerful, you will rise. And do you know what's most beautiful? The Transfiguration is a promise that there will be a time when glory is no longer momentary, but eternal. Until that day comes, we live with our eyes fixed on him. Maybe you've never climbed a literal mountain, but if you've had a true encounter with Jesus, you know what it means to be transformed by his presence. And if you haven't yet experienced this, know this. The invitation still stands. Jesus still calls you to ascend, still calls you to see. And when he reveals himself, because he does everything else loses its shine.